Hi, my name is Olivia Votop, and we're back here ready to start our everyday sourdough bread. Now you've gathered all of your ingredients and you have your tools ready to go, and now we're ready to mix our dough. Okay, so I typically use this kind of a container. I call it like my proofing container to hold all of the dough whenever I bake. But you're not going to really be able to see as I'm mixing it very well because we're just not set up for that kind of videotaping. So instead, I'm going to use just a regular mixing bowl. It's large enough that it's going to hold what I need it to hold, and it'll work just fine. But I will transfer it into that container later, you'll see, so that I can proof. But typically I would do all of this work all in one container so that I don't have, extra bowls to wash. But this will be fine. So we're going to be making a white sourdough loaf. This is every day that you can make this, your kids can make this, and you can enjoy this on a daily basis if you want it. So what we're going to need is, we're going to start off with Eve, or your starter. She is bubbly. You can see here, she's ready to go. She has nice big bubbles and she's active, and hopefully you can see that. She smells amazing. She's ripe and ready to go. So I like to start with the starter first, because sometimes I accidentally add more than I want to, and it's easy for me to take it out if it's not already floating in water. So I like to start off with adding the sourdough first. For this recipe, you're going to add 50 grams of starter. And this is going to make one loaf, only one loaf. You could certainly, you can certainly double that recipe and you could have 2 loaves, but for this one, we're just going to make one loaf. And that's perfect. Next, I'm going to add the water. So I'm going to zero out my scale. And we're going to start with 350 grams of warm water. Now, if you don't have warm water, that's okay. I use room temperature water too. It really depends on the temperature inside your house. Sometimes in the middle of the summer, if I'm baking, I don't want to add warm water because it's already really warm inside my kitchen. So I will purposely use cool water to sort of slow down that fermentation process. Okay, we're good to go there. And now I'm with my hand, I'm going to break apart that, I'm going to swirl the dough, the starter into the water. I'm going to break it apart with my fingers. I'm being gentle. I'm not, being too hard on this. And I'm just trying to dissolve. That's all I'm trying to do, is just dissolve the starter into my water. And once it's fairly dissolved, I put it back on. I'm going to rinse my hand. And I'm going to zero out my scale again, and now is when I'm going to start to add the flour. This is bread flour. We're going to add 500 grams of white bread flour. Almost there. I went a little bit over, so I'm going to take scoop some out from the top. Some of it that hasn't touched the water yet. Oops, I took too much. Okay, we're good. Awesome. Okay. Now, what you're gonna see is that I'm gonna start to knead this with my hand, just incorporating the water and the flour together. And you're gonna end up with a shaggy dough. Really wet, it's gonna be sticky, it's gonna be sticking to your hand, and probably the side of the bowl as well. And that's okay, because after we do this, we're gonna wait 30 minutes, and then we're gonna add the salt. Now what this 30 minutes, you can wait 30 minutes to an hour. It's depending on your schedule, depending on what you have going on. But after we let it sit for 30 minutes, then I'll add the salt. And what that time allows for is for the flour and the water to start working together, to start coming together. and it's going to be awesome. You're going to see what a transformation just 30 minutes can do. Now you could leave it 45 minutes up to an hour, I would say, and that is a great time for this flour to work together with the water and the sourdough. So it's coming together. I want to pick up all the pieces. You can see that it's becoming a mass here, a very shaggy, sticky dough mass. I want to make sure there isn't any flour, dry flour bits left anywhere in the bowl. So I'm turning the bowl, I'm turning the dough as well, and trying to capture any pieces. Okay, so I'm good with what it's like right now. You can see my hands are full of this stuff, and I'm going to use my dough scraper, my bench scraper, to take as much of this off as I can of my hand. And I'm going to scrape the side, although I'm not too worried about it right now, but you can, to get the dough off of the inside of the bowl. And we're going to let it sit for, like I said, 30 to 45 minutes to an hour. If you leave it an hour, you'll definitely see a huge difference. But I've got other stuff to do, so I'm just going to leave it for about 30 minutes. Okay, we're going to scrape the inside. There's not much to scrape. We did a pretty good job already of incorporating all of that flour on the side into the mass of the dough. And I'm going to wash my hands. Give me just a second here. Okay, if I were doing this in my proofing container, at this point, I would just put the lid on. But because I'm not doing that, I'm gonna put some saran wrap and just let it sit for 30 minutes. I'll be back in 30 minutes and you'll see the next step, which will be to add the salt and then to work it into a nice ball. So I'll see you in 30 minutes.